Just a reminder to switch those phones off again.
Okay, so testing, it works.
All right, just have a seat. Welcome back. Are you quite ready, Doctor?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yep.
So
Okay.
whenever you guys are ready.
Thank you. We'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Okie dokie. So yeah, we have quite a bit to cover, so let's hurry up. This is where I grew up in Mexico. So as you can see, this was my place, there. I would see the sunset every day, in front of the ocean there. So it was pretty nice. That's why I like the ocean, because I actually grew up literally in front of it. Except that my ocean is cold, And how you guys as the temperature is right now is the summer there. That's the challenge there. But because the water is cold, it cannot get hot there because the cold water, keeps the temperature more moderate and so forth. I'm going to be quoting some of my research. You find there my research there on that ResearchGate page. And also I'll be quoting some of my tweets. You find the tweets there, Eddie RD MD. So let's focus on nutritional approach to female health. And ladies are experts on cycles, They can actually tell you, at what period in their cycle they are and so forth. And this fantastic mechanism that God gave to females is preparing the body for a potential pregnancy. And if the pregnancy does not take place, all the preparations, actually the body needs to tear apart, And that's why the bleeding and so forth on a cyclical basis. So even though it may be bothersome, this cycle and so forth, it's actually in a way a blessing because the females are being exposed to a good amount of hormones that help with many benefits in the body. And during the time of menopause, those ovaries that used to send some of these signals for this cycle to happen start to stop, and therefore the estradiol and progesterone start to decrease. And in some females, and we're going to see why today, hot flashes, tend to be quite bothersome. Suddenly the person feels they're, burning inside. They have to take off, the jacket and so forth. Vaginal changes, temporary mood problems. And the reason why those bothersome hot flashes occur is because of vasodilation. Just like your heater, some homes have this in cold places, you open the heater, more hot water circulates, and that creates quite a bit of warmth. That's exactly something similar that is happening in your body, why you get those bothersome hot flashes. In parentheses, females that are going through menopause also sometimes start having problems with facial hair. And the reason why is because the body shifts. Before, used to make a lot of estrogen. Now that the estrogen levels are decreasing, now their bodies many times end up producing androgen, and those androgen make those hair follicles for that hair to be thicker and stimulate their growth. That's the reason why that happens. Now, something fascinating happens not too far from here in Asia regarding those hot flashes. And you can see, for example, in Japan, the study that was done in the 1980s, only 15% of the females in Japan actually have hot flashes, which is actually a very low number if you compare here with the average Australian. Another study that was done between 1992 and 1996 in China found that those hot flashes are only 13.5% of the population that they study. Again, a very low number, actually. And what do people in Asia eat quite a bit? Soy, isn't it? I mean, if you have ever been to Asia, as I told you, I've been to most countries in Asia. I've been to China, to Japan, to Malaysia, to Hong Kong, to Singapore, and many more. And you're going to see soy everywhere there. Today, many people satanize soy. I tell them, if soy is so bad as you guys say, we wouldn't have any Chinese people today. Say it's so much soy. And that's actually the opposite, isn't it? It actually has multiple health benefits. And soy, they eat it in multiple forms as tofu, fermented, and so forth. So, soy has what are called these isoflavones, and the isoflavones are not all the same. There are different subtypes of those isoflavones. Now, notice here in this study, they were documenting people that are taking the soy and people that are taking a little bit more concentrated forms of the soy. And let me tell you how you interpret this. It's called a forest plot. So the more you move to the left, the more benefit it has. So actually what this study was showing is that the isoflavones actually benefit much more when they are a little bit in higher dosage and so forth. So notice what is happening in Japan. The amount of soy actually is starting to decrease somehow. And the reason being is because Japan is in a process of changing its traditional diet into a more westernized diet. If you ever seen there, in Japan, now this McDonald's and Kentucky and all this junk, started to come there to Japan. So look at this survey throughout the years, started in 1946 to 1993. How fish, dairy, meat, eggs, these types of things are in the increase. And when you increase something, you need to decrease something. So look at what is going down. What's going down is potatoes. What's going down is grains. What's going down is rice. See, there's right now a movement there trying to blame the rice eating for many of the problems that the Asians have. The rice is not the problem, I can assure you of that. The problem is what they're eating with that rice, So they are changing those whole foods and adding all these high caloric processed and animal products, and that's what's causing the modern problems in Asia. So it's not only the soy, but the overall diet that must have an effect. Now, we learned something very interesting from southern Mexico. In southern Mexico, I come from the northwest, all the way close to San Diego. This is exactly the opposite of where I grew up. In this southern part of Mexico, they did this study. And did you know when they went and asked these females, do you have, menopausal symptoms and hot flashes? Not a single one of them had the problem. So as the researchers started analyzing what are these people eating, you will see that the diet consists of tortillas, just an excellent food. I grew up eating these tortillas, 2 or 3 times a day. Black beans, okay? Black beans are an excellent food, very high in iron. And chaya, this plant, they don't eat this everywhere in Mexico, but they eat this in southern Mexico. So that had that effect at helping decrease those menopausal symptoms. Now, in this big study that took place in America, it's called the Women Health Initiative, in which they were testing different things. It found out that from the females that they were reporting the less vasomotor. Vasomotor means the hot flashes. Those ladies that had the least vasomotor symptoms were the ones that were reducing the fat, were eating more fruits and vegetables, and more whole grains. So what they found there in that study is that losing body weight actually decrease those hot flashes. So there's a relationship between body fat and those hot flashes. And in this interesting study, notice, so females have, you can classify the symptoms they're going to have menopause. You can classify them in 2, what we call vasomotor. I told you those are the hot flashes. And physical symptoms. Physical symptoms include things like mood changes, sleep problems, and so forth. So notice how the people that were following the whole food plant-based diet actually had less amounts of both physical and vasomotor symptoms. So we know that what we eat affects the germs that we have in our digestive tract. And what the type of germs that you have in your digestive tract, what you eat can have different effects depending on which type of germs you have. So let me show you. There is the reason why we know that females in Asia have less menopausal symptoms is because one of the isoflavones of soy is called diaziin. Diaziin, there's an if there, if you have the right type of beneficial microbes in your gut, it will transform that diaziin into Equal, and we know that the ladies with the highest Equal have less menopausal symptoms. So look at these fascinating statistics. See, the problem in the Western world, here in Australia including, is that only 20 to 30% of the females here in Australia produce that Equal when they eat the soy products. Compared to the females in Asia, they produce that Equal 50 to 60% of them. Why? What makes the difference? Here it is. Look at this. The research is very clear. See, in this study that was done in Australia, it was found out that Non-vegetarians, only 25% of them were producing the egg wall, while vegetarians, 59% of them were producing the egg wall. Can you see the issue here? So, depending on the diet that you have, you're going to benefit those microbes that are going to help convert those soy products into that beneficial products that are going to help you decrease those, postmenopausal symptoms. And this is something that is across the board. Look at this study from America. Among the non-vegetarians, 0% of them produced the egg wall when they ate the soy products, compared to the vegans, 40% of them produced the egg wall. Also, in order to make the egg wall, you also not only need to eliminate the animal products, but you need to eat more healthy carbohydrates, and you need to eat less fats. That is what the research show. So the more fat you eat, the less egg wall that you make. So watch out for that. And also this one, in Osaka, Japan, many times the athletes, the coaches give bad counsel. Oh, you need to eat some meat so you can perform better and so forth. And that's why the levels of those producing the egg wall was actually less, because they were eating, many of them, the animal products. And we know that those non-producers of egg wall had 3 times more likely to have, during menstruation, more symptoms and so forth. So not only the females that are going through menopause, but also the females as they go to their normal period, this has an effect. And not only that, it actually impairs your performance as an athlete if you're not able to produce that egg wall compared to the non-producers. My own wife is an example of this. My wife is a classic American, and she grew up with a classic American diet, the hamburgers and you name it, And when she was growing up, she had such painful menstrual periods that the doctor had to give her medication to stop her period because it was just completely disabling. Then she switched to a whole food, plant-based diet, and I have never seen her with menopausal dysfunction, So that completely changed her microbiota and, gave her, much better, menstruation symptoms and so forth. So look at this one. This is from the newspaper here in Australia. Dr. Sue Ratt, some of you know her, Dundas Church. And plant foods take the heat out of menopause. And the reason why is because that change of those microbes. And this is my study. In this study, we were documenting that ladies, as they're going through the menopause, and many times their markers start to go bad. Their blood pressure goes up, the fasting glucose goes up, they start gaining weight, their cholesterol goes up, and so forth. We were showing in this study that if they switch to that whole food plant-based diet and healthy lifestyle, that doesn't need to happen. And you actually start decreasing these risk factors. And there was this very interesting study that was done not too far from where I live. Pittsburgh is about 4 hours from where I live. So they did a good deal, bad deal. So what they did, Pittsburgh has a lot of African Americans there. So those African Americans, they gave them the diet of rural South Africa. They got the good deal. And the ones that got the bad deal were those people from rural South Africa. They gave them the American diet that is eaten in Pittsburgh, America, What happened? The microbiome started changing in a matter of 14 days. That's how fast your microbiome can change. So, other method, if you are dealing with some of those symptoms of menopause, is the following. Switch to a whole food plant-based diet, decrease the amount of fat that you're eating, no fried things and so forth, use an air fryer instead, and eat soybeans. In this particular intervention, it was the non-GMO soybeans, and they were cooked on an Instapot, and these females were eating half a cup per day. And what they found is that those soybeans tremendously decrease, those bothersome symptoms of the menopause. And we know why. Number one, because we're helping switch our microbiome into a better microbiome. And two, because that new microbiome is more efficient at transforming those soy products into those beneficial end products that are going to help us with the symptoms. So you can see here, and if you're going to switch to that whole food plant-based diet, remember to take your vitamin B12. We've been putting this emphasis over and over. So if you're going to do that switch, you're going to take that B12 twice or 3 times a week. So what they found out is that those females that made that switch, the frequency of the symptoms started to decrease, the intensity started to decrease, the duration of the bothersome symptoms started to decrease, and also they didn't occur during the night. So here you can see, those people that were following that, eating that half a cup of soybeans on a regular basis, they actually started losing weight. Compared to those that were not making that change, those females actually started gaining weight. The amount of hot flashes started to go down. And how severe? 84% less hot flashes. Isn't that a good deal? So here you can see how tremendous decrease of those menopausal symptoms in a matter of 12 weeks. Compared to those people that didn't make any change, they continue doing what they have been doing, no change whatsoever regarding their symptoms, just a little decrease. And another one, very important marker called the quality of life. How good you feel, how is your energy, how is your sleep, and so forth. Notice those that were doing the whole food plant-based diet started showing tremendous improvements all across the board, because that diet has multiple implications all over your body. So those people that were not making changes and were reporting a few changes, the researchers pinpoint to the fact that there's normal changes in the symptoms in time. Cooler weather actually decreases symptoms of the menopausal females. And just the fact that they started seeing that the other ones were improving, some of them actually started making some changes in their diet, because they saw that the other females were actually having it better. So in conclusion, that low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet, and that you add half a cup of soybeans a day, significant weight loss, much less hot flashes, and improvements in quality of life. Isn't this a good deal? Isn't it? And this is something I have seen so many times, in my 30 years that I work in these lifestyle centers. Also, there's a myth there that says that, soy products are going to give you cancer and so forth. Those are just myths. In fact, the research is very clear. The more soy you take, the least the amount of breast cancer. So it has actually a protective effect regarding breast cancer. So you can see that the females that take the least soy are the ones that have the highest mortality on cancer. And the reason why, we know why. See, because soy stimulates different receptors. See, when we're talking about cancer, the receptors involved in that are the ones called the ER alpha. Those are found in the breast and the uterus. But the receptors that soy stimulates are actually the ER beta, which are mostly found on bone, urogenital system, and the vasculature. And because it's in the vascular, in the blood vessels, that's why they help with the hot flashes. So their effect on the breast are minimum to none. And some people say, well, why don't we just take estrogens, Couldn't we do some hormonal replacement therapy? Well, the problem is the following. If you are just taking the estrogen by itself, you increase the risk of endometrial cancer, you increase the risk of stroke, you increase the risk of deep vein thrombosis, you increase the risk of dementia. Now, if you combine that estrogen with progestin, then you increase the risk of breast cancer, stroke, deep vein thrombosis, dementia, and myocardial infarction. So that is the problem. So in this meta-analysis is when you have many studies and you take the results of all the studies and you pull them together. In that study, it was found out that there is an increase of certain cancers. So you can see here, the longer you use them, the more the increase of the cancer. So here it is. Those that were using estrogen by itself, the increased risk was 1 breast cancer for every 200 females that were using them. Those females that were using the estrogen with the progestin, those were 1 case for every 50 females. So you can see significant increase in the risk of the breast cancer, so about twice. And the article, quoting the article, in Western counties, there has been about 20 million breast cancer diagnoses since 1990, of which about 1 million would have been caused by the menopausal hormone therapy use. So you can, 1 million out of those 20 million breast cancers, the researchers can pinpoint were caused by taking this hormone replacement therapy. There appear to be little risk, however, from topical vaginal estrogen preparations, which limit systemic exposure. So if you're going to be using, some of that estrogen therapy, it needs to be applied directly in the vaginal tissue and not taken as a pill, according to this study. Estrogens with or without progestin should be prescribed at the lowest effective doses and for the shortest duration consistent with treatment goals and risk for individual women. So if you need to have them, it needs to be like smallest doses and the shortest amount of time, but you should instead try to find other options. And this is not the only study. This other study was documenting how those estrogens increase the breast cancer risk. So here you can see the more that we're using, the more the risk of the cancer. Another concerns of females as they're going through the menopausal process is they start gaining weight. Heart disease can be significant. Estrogen has a protective effect, and as estrogen decreases, well, the risk of heart attacks increases, dementia, and breast cancer. Well, in this study, they were comparing ladies that are going through that process of the menopause, and they put one group on the low-fat, whole food, plant-based diet. The other one continued their usual diet. There was no changes in exercise, and it was 14 weeks. What were they eating? Fruits, grains, legumes, vegetables, and nuts. Notice what happened, and the amount of carbohydrates actually increased tremendously on the females that were doing the vegan diet. The amount of fat, actually both of them started to decrease. But notice this, the weight was much more on the females on that whole food plant-based diet. And the reason why the other females also lost weight was because they started cheating. They saw that the vegan ones were improving their weight, and then they started, incorporating some of those changes. This is what we call cross-contamination in the study. Yet, as they continue long-term, those females that continue, with their animal-based diet, notice that in the long term it didn't work. They started gaining back that weight that initially they decreased, while the whole food plant-based diet kept the weight off, which is at the end of the day what we want, isn't it? For that weight to go away if that's the case. And there's multiple studies about this, how that whole food plant-based diet, this is not just one isolated study, actually have better weight. So the reason why females on a whole food plant-based diet lose weight is because you eat more fiber. Fiber fills you up and doesn't, make you gain weight. And you can see here, the problem is that animal products are naturally too high in fat. For example, the leanest beef you can get is 29%. That's too much fat. Your goal should be 10% or less. Higher than 10% is too much fat. If you take away the skin of the chicken, still is a bunch of fat, 23%. You know that very well. You can take away the skin. You can boil that chicken. What are you going to have in the very surface of that when you cool down that? All this fat, isn't it? Is the fat of that chicken. Salmon, look at that, tremendously high in fat. White tuna also too high in fat. As I told you, your goal should be 10% or less. Compare that to broccoli, beans, rice, sweet potato. Naturally, these whole food plant foods are very low in fat. And cheese is 70% fat. In fact, this is the rule. If a fat is liquid at room temperature, it's a better fat. While a fat that is saturated is solid at room temperature. Is cheese solid or liquid? Solid, which means it's the bad type of fat, the one that cheese has. But people say, oh, doctor, but I love cheese. Well, this is an abusive relationship because you love cheese, but cheese doesn't love you. It's just a one-way type of relationship there, You need to go away from those abusive relationships. They're not good for you. So watch out for foods that are high in fat. Peanuts are naturally higher in fat. If my goal was to lose weight, I would be, going a little bit away from the peanuts, the peanut butter, and so forth. And Another reason why you lose weight on the whole food plant-based diet is the following. Have you ever noticed that when you eat, especially when it's cold, you kind of warm up? And that is because there is an after-meal calorie burn. So what happens is that when you switch to a whole food plant-based diet, after you eat, you actually burn more calories. It's something very interesting that happens. And regarding your heart health, as we have been talking previously, it's possible to reverse that heart disease. Remember, we're talking about this by a whole food plant-based diet, exercise, manage stress, and avoiding tobacco. So not only you are helping the symptoms of menopause by switching to that diet, your risk of heart disease actually decreases. And the sad part in females that have a heart attack, less likely to survive the heart attack. Much more females die of heart attacks than males. Males tend to survive better the heart attack. That's why for females, the best thing is to prevent the heart attack in the first place from happening. And as we were, showing on Tuesday, there was 82% reversal of the plaque of atherosclerosis on those people following the whole food plant-based diet. And your brain health? Well, we know that the intake of saturated fat, dairy, butter, chicken, pork, beef, is related to Alzheimer's disease. The more saturated fat the people take, the more the risk for dementia later on in life. And beware, trans fats are also very much risk for Alzheimer's disease. What are those trans fats? This Crisco, this vegetable shortening, that many baked goods have. Beware, that's not the best fat at all. You can see it also in the ingredients when you buy, especially baked goods. If it says there, partially hydrogenated oil, avoid that. That stuff is not good for you. It has trans fats, increases your risk for dementia. Instead, what I want to eat is vitamin E that has a protective effect for dementia. The people that eat the most vitamin E have actually the least Alzheimer's risk. So we know that people that eat the most leafy green vegetables, their memory works the better, and the more servings you have, the more the benefit. Okay? So those leafy green vegetables include spinach, kale, collard greens, lettuce, and so forth. And cancer, this is a very interesting study. You can see something fascinating here in the Adventist Health Study. Notice, the more milk you drink, the more your breast cancer. Can you see this relationship there? Here the amount of dairy in the bottom, and how that breast cancer increases dramatically the more dairy you take. And we know why this happens. The reason why dairy increases breast cancer is the following. See, there's a hormone in cow called estradiol. The more the cow is pregnant, the more the estradiol. So, estradiol is preparing the uterus of the cow to give that milk. So, as the cow is about to give birth, estradiol starts to increase in the body to stimulate the cow's body to produce milk. So, what happens, that estradiol comes out in the breast milk. So, you're doing that hormone replacement we were talking about without necessarily taking the pills. if you are taking dairy. There is no such dairy without estradiol. You have to have the estradiol for the cows to give that milk. So notice that the amount of estradiol in the blood is much less than the estradiol that is coming up on the milk. So there is no such thing as hormone-free milk. I always get the question, doctor, what about if it's organic milk? It doesn't matter. The cow needed that estradiol. Your milk is going to have estradiol. So here you can see, how the mortality is very much linked. Your risk of dying of breast cancer, very much related to dairy. The more dairy you take, the higher your risk of breast cancer and breast cancer mortality. So what do we need to do? We need to go back to a whole food, plant-based diet. Consists of fruits, grains, legumes, and vegetables, and some vitamin B12. We need to limit the oils. Watch out, especially free oils. I've seen people, they make their salad, and they're like, oh, olive oil is healthy. You just ruin your salad, Don't do that, Oil is oil. Now, if you're a marathon runner, well, put some there. You're going to need all those calories. But the average person that is, sitting down and being not very active, they don't benefit from that excess oil. So read your labels, For example, look at this, peanut butter. How many grams of fat? 16 grams of fat. Compare that to this black beans, 0.5 grams of fat. Can you see the difference? There is a big difference between both of them. So these foods, if your goal is to decrease the amount of fat, watch out, okay? So how are we going to start our healthy diet? Number one, check the possibilities. So what you need to do, you need to start planning. What are you going to have for breakfast? What are you going to have for lunch? What are you going to have for dinner? And I suggest even skipping the snack. So some ideas. What is a good breakfast? They were asking me previously. Here it is, Depending what you're used to, You can do some, whole grain pancakes. You don't need to put eggs, There's plenty of recipes on the internet that shows you how to do it without the eggs. You can do the oatmeal. That's also a very healthy breakfast with some soy milk and so forth. You can do a smoothie type of a dish there. You can do a scrambled tofu. I'm sure you guys might have tasted that. That stuff is really good, very easy to make. Just go to the internet. You'll get the recipe there. What about lunch and dinners? Well, you can do, a plant-based hamburger. You can do a nice, healthy salad. You can do some burritos there. You can do a rice and bean dish covered with some veggies and so forth. People think that if it's healthy, it needs to taste bad. That's not true. In fact, if it tastes bad, it's not good, okay? You need to do it healthy and that it tastes good so that you can do this in long term. How can you do this long term if it's not tasting good? And you have different options. Here in Australia, you're so blessed with all kinds of cultures here. If you want to go and hang around with the Italians, they have fantastic dishes, They have some very nice, healthy salads. Pasta is a wonderful dish. The problem is not the pasta. The problem is what you put in the pasta, All these meatballs and so forth, they just ruin your pasta. You can use, a plant-based type of sauce. You can eat pizza. It's possible to eat a good, healthy pizza. I was just in Italy in January. I ate a wonderful pizza there. In fact, where I was in Naples, that's where they started the margarita pizza. Depends what you put in the pizza. So you can order, plant-based toppings. That's what you need to be putting on the top of your pizza. You can do a minestrone soup. That's a very hearty, healthy, filling, type of soup. You could do Latin American dishes, with the beans, and corn. You can do this fajitas or burritos. You could do some tacos with plant-based options. You could do the Chinese, there's plenty of good dishes there, some good noodles there with some tofu there, edamame. You could do some rice and vegetables and so forth, and multiple combinations that you can do out of this. You could do Japanese by doing, a whole food plant-based sushi, edamame. You can do some seaweed dishes and so forth. Plenty of good options there. Even fast foods, Oh, doctor, I don't have time. Well, you can stop at Subway and do a Subway without cheese. Just tell them, just skip the cheese, give me all these veggies and so forth. You can go to Taco Bell and do the bean burrito. That one is, nice and hearty. I don't know, you guys have Chipotle here in Australia? I haven't seen Chipotle here. That's another chain in America. But I seen Gonzalez, and what's the name of this guy? Guzman and Gonzalez, that's right, or something like that. Gomez, yeah. So yeah, that one, they probably have something like that Chipotle bowl, with the beans and the rice and so forth. So make your plan. If you make a plan, less likely that you're going to fail. And then test drive that whole food plant-based diet for 3 weeks. You will see it makes you feel better, your stomach functions much better, your mind functions much better, you start losing weight, and so forth. That's what's going to be the encouraging thing. So you can see here those isoflavones in different types of foods. Notice that the soybeans, the whole soybean form is one that is a good source. Soy yogurt, I've seen it around here. Tofu, tempeh, miso, soy milk. This is how you can get those 50 to 60 grams of isoflavone. So you have multiple options that you can combine there with your dishes. So the way that you do the recipe, the one that they use in particular, in the study that I show you, it was done in an Instapot. You guys have this Instapot here, isn't it, in Australia? So they had the soybeans. They put some salt, cayenne, garlic powder, basil, and oregano. You cook it. You add the spices depending on your taste. You bake there, and you can do it in the Instapot, or you can do it in the oven. If you're going to do it in the oven, you bake those beans for 350 for 40 to 60 minutes, and then you put your seasoning and so forth. So you can see, you can, decrease those bothersome symptoms. There are very good options. And now you can see, the advantages of making those changes that are going to switch your microbiota, that will make you feel much better. So thank you very much. And Pastor, the time is yours.
Switched off. Okay. All right. Do we have any questions at all for Dr. Ramirez based on our presentations tonight? What was our first presentation on? Testosterone. What was this presentation on? Estrogen. All right. Any questions at all? Okay, I've got a couple of questions here. Okay, you'll get the mic over there, Kerry, and I'll give Fred the mic over here.
Thanks, Doctor. What about balsamic and olive oil in your salad?
That's right. Balsamic vinegar is excellent if you want to have stomachal problems. Balsamic vinegar is not the best thing for your body because there's a protective layer in your stomach, and balsamic vinegar is very acidic. So it destroys that layer that protects your stomach. Instead, I'll give you a better option. Lemon and salt. Much better option than the balsamic vinegar, if it's used for your salad and so forth. So yes, it's very irritating to your stomach, that balsamic vinegar. Well, olive oil, you need to watch out. If your goal is to lose weight, I would be decreasing that olive oil, because it's concentrated energy, So depending where you are, Now, if you're like super active and you tell me, doctor, I'm running my, 40 kilometers a week, and so, man, put some olive oil, because you're going to need those calories. But the average person that is not that active, the benefit is actually a problem because that concentrated energy only stimulates for you to gain weight.
A2 milk. Do you know about that?
Which one?
A2 milk. It's a milk that's prepared for lacto-intolerant people.
That's right. Oh, so it's milk that they remove the lactase, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the problem with that milk is still the estradiol problem. So even that milk that doesn't have the lactose had to be stimulated for the cow to get that milk out. You cannot get rid of those, those hormones. So today there's no excuse, because today we have soy milk, we have rice milk, we have oat milk, and the list goes on and on, all kinds of things. Try them out. See which one you like. They actually don't taste bad. So yes, much better option. That one has the hormonal problem, also.
Another question about coconut oil.
Yes.
If it's a virgin coconut oil,
Yeah.
Does that make any difference to it?
No, it doesn't make any difference. Still is concentrated. They took away the fiber. They took away the phytochemicals and so forth. So yeah, it still is very concentrated and stimulate the increase of cholesterol in your body. So yeah, not the best thing. Once in a while, some recipes call for this, for a little treat or something. Once in a while will be fine, but on a regular basis, not a good idea, The coconut, you eat it the way God made it. That's the way you eat the coconut, okay?
I'm interested in your view on soy products for
That's
men.
right.
I've heard that if you have a lot of soy milk, it has an estrogen-like chemical in it. So what is your view on that?
Yeah, that's not necessarily true. And you can see this, for example, in the athletes from Asia, All those athletes are, taking, a significant amount of soy products and so forth, and they actually perform pretty good, So no, those are more myths that are circulated on the internet and so forth. Now, if you're going to be taking, the whole gallon of soy milk, then I have a problem with that, That's too much, But your cup of soy milk and so forth, no problem, okay? Oh, so the first question, what's the best oil? No oil. Pam, you know this spray? How do you call that one here? You know, the one that you spray there on the pan. It's an oil that comes in a spray. That's the best one to use. Use just a little bit, just so that it doesn't stick to your pan. You know, that's the best oil to use. You know, so that's what I'm talking about. You know, that excess oil causes too many problems. Plus, many of these oils can be inflammatory, you know, when we're talking about inflammation. So yeah, that's regarding that question. She was going to ask a second question, and they took away their microphone.
No, the second one was, I was interested when you talked about the estrogen combined with
Progesterone.
yes. So apparently many, what do I want to call them? Okay, the pills that prevent pregnancy, they have those hormones. Yeah.
Well, the problem naturally is not the problem. The problem is when you take it externally, you know. So yes, you know, that's the issue that we are learning. And we're talking about hormone replacement therapy, you know. When the female is going through menopause and so forth, they sometimes prescribe these hormones to the females and so forth. That's what we're talking about, you know, that can have a negative effect. Now, if your question is during, you know, for pregnancy prevention and so forth, you know, as a medication, yes, you know, there's also some challenges with that. So yeah, you know, that's a conversation you need to have with your GP. Today we have many options, you know. That's not the only option that we have. We have from the DUI, you know, this little device that they can introduce in your reproductive organ. It works actually wonderful, that, and other methods that are potentially possible. So yeah, that's a discussion that you can have with your GP to prescribe you an alternative, you know, if that's your choice.
I wanted to ask about apple cider vinegar.
That's right.
What's your view on that?
That's
one?
right. It's better than the balsamic, but still is too acid. You know, that's what I don't like about that. You know, that is still very acidic on the body, and that excess acidity can potentially cause some issues there at the level of the digestive tract, specifically the stomach. So yeah, you know, there's other alternatives, you know, that we can use.
Hi, doctor. I had a visit to my GP today, and for the result of a blood test, and I've been told my iron is low. And straight
That's right.
away she went, "Oh, you have to eat 2 steaks a day," and naturally, I just don't like red meat,
Yes.
and I've been cutting down. I'm just going for the chicken, which you said is not good. So I went for chicken liver, and the sight of the blood put me off. What do I do to boost my iron level?
What you need to do, you need to give
The soil.
a nutrition book to your GP. Okay, the problem is that many doctors don't know nutrition. You know, by the counsel that he gave you, it tells me that doctor could work on his nutrition skills. See, I went to medical school. The amount of nutrition that we get as doctors is minimum. I mean, I learned all these things because I work in the lifestyle centers and so forth. There are many plant-based options that are much more healthier, you know. If you start eating the steak, the problem is going to be the cholesterol, it's going to be the saturated fat, it's going to be the hormones that are put in there, it's going to be toxicities and so forth. Do you know that there's more iron in avocados? There is more iron in mangoes, you know. Wheat germ also is loaded with iron. Black beans, we mentioned, they're loaded with iron. And a king in iron leafy green vegetables eaten together with lemon. Now, let me tell you something. Excess iron is actually a bigger problem. Excess iron taken in your body is very oxidative. It ages you. It damages your heart. It increases your risk of dementia and so forth. So, by switching to healthier iron sources, you decrease the risk of problems and so forth. So increase these foods that I just told you. Also, there's a website you have to put on your favorites on your internet. It's called nutritionfacts.org. Facts as in F-A-C-T-S. nutritionfacts.org. Go to that website and type there iron. You will find some very good information there. Everything is free there on that website.
Is there something that we eat that affects the absorption of iron? Because I know, like say for my wife or other women, like they get a test and, your iron's low,
That's right.
low. But like we eat meat, not heaps, but, and other things, heaps veggies too, but yeah, is it just a menstrual thing? Is it like, I don't know.
Yes, and this is the thing. Females that include animal products on their daily eating and so forth have more abundant menstruations. Therefore, they lose much more iron. That's one challenge, with that type of diet, that you actually end up losing more of the iron and so forth. Also, there's certain levels about the losing of the iron. Sometimes you still are within the range, your iron still is within the range, but because most people eat excess iron in their diet, and I told you it has many problems having excess iron in the diet, then you have somebody that doesn't eat that excessive amount of iron. They still are within range, but compared to these ones, they look like they're deficient. So you also need to evaluate if it's truly a deficient type of thing, or if it's just, in the range that is lower than the average person. So that's something that needs to be evaluated further. Okay.
Thank you. Doctor, my question is, we spoke about testosterone. For men, it's produced in the testes.
Yes.
For women, it's produced in the ovaries.
Yes.
Men would have much, great amounts of testosterone.
That's right.
Testosterone, sorry.
Yes.
So drops in testosterone would be, the question is it more of a concern for men, or should women be just as particular about testosterone as men should be?
Well, it's more of a concern for male, because this testosterone, is what gives us many of the characteristics of being a male. But in the female, when the female testosterone is actually decreasing too much, the effect that the husbands are going to complain is the sex drive decreases, secondary to the fact that testosterone is going down in the female. So yeah, that would be the most important one that husbands complain in the consultation. But yes, it will be more of a problem in the male side of things.
Okay. Thank you. All right, maybe we'll take one last question for this evening. Thank you, Gladys.
I have two questions. One is, I heard ladies that have low thyroid levels saying, I cannot have soy. Does it affect the thyroid?
It's actually the opposite. You actually, a nutrient that is too little is iodine. So it is a good idea that the salt that you use is supplemented with iodine. It says there in the label, when you buy your salt, make sure you're buying salt with iodine, because there's very little of this nutrient around. So one of the best sources is your salt with iodine. So yeah, it should be actually the opposite. You know, they should be taking some.
I was saying
some salt.
soy.
Oh, soy.
Yeah.
Okay, that's based on a study that found some mild relationship. So it's not that definite that we say, oh, you know, for sure, you know, thyroid problem, soy products, goodbye, you know, and so forth. So it's not that clear. That was just one study that showed that kind of semi-relationship. I wouldn't be worrying that much about it.
Okay. And the other one is, have you heard about topical bioidentical hormone replacement?
That's right.
That is made out of plants and it's
That's
only
right.
topical?
It's what we were mentioning there briefly, how the vaginal application of it, you know, it seems that that is the best one. You know, you get that benefit without all those negative effects. So if it's going to be used, you know, that's a conversation, you know, that you need to have there with your GP, you know. Ask him, you know, what about the vaginal application of this hormone replacement, you know, is that something I'm candidate and so forth. So yeah, they will evaluate and tell you, you know, if you're a candidate for that.
Okay, great questions, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Ramirez. Let me dismiss us with a prayer. Can I invite you to bow your heads? Our Heavenly Father, once again, Lord, we have been enriched with the facts, Lord, concerning our health and well-being. Father, we thank you for bringing us here tonight that we may learn from you and apply the things that we learn. We thank you that your desire is that we prosper and be in health. Father, please dismiss us now under your guidance and care. Give us courage to make the changes as we go home that need to be made. Help us to do it with wisdom. May we do things in a holistic manner. And Lord, may we look to those, Father, for the good experience, and they can help and support us along the way. Father, we are considering, we are moving forward with some vegetarian classes soon. It's my privilege to make that known here tonight. But we just ask that you guide us there and you bless our efforts there as well, so that we may come together further and learn more from you. Thank you, Lord, and keep us safe. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen.